all this listen long. I set this thing up the other day and forgot to bring this back.
Okay. Start off really basic question.
Yeah, I've done.
Type in Vim test that. So you want to type Vim space test test.php. As soon as you start typing in the Vim test, you press tab and then scroll down. Oh, see, you actually have that in there. So go ahead and type. I'm going to put you out of Vim real quick. Okay, so now you want to type Vim space. Now the guy. No. There you go. Alright, everyone got that open? Okay, great. So now we have enough time to start getting ready. So, like I said, my name is Thomas. I'm a tutor here, and we're going to be going pretty deeply over this outline that we come up with. And as you know, this tutor, this is a workshop on video. So there's different types of documents that you want to edit that help. One that I'm sure everyone here is familiar with is OpenOffice or Microsoft Office.
Any of the what you see is what you get editors. And those are really great for some tasks. When you need to make a flyer or something like that, they work really well. But they aren't always good if you want to code. You probably don't want to enter that into Microsoft Office. It just doesn't work very well. You'll probably want to use something else. So there's other editors that work better for other jobs. There's text editors. I'm sure everyone's here is probably really familiar with Notepad. There's Notepad++, WordPad. On Linux, there's Jedit and Kwrite, and there's a number of different editors. And then there's also another type of editor called a modal editor. A modal editor is called that because it has different modes. And Vim is a modal editor. Vim stands for VI Improved, and it's based off of a program that came before it called VI. VI has been around for a long time, and it's run mostly on the command line, although there are some windowed versions of it available as well that add in some menus. But if you ever have to access a computer straight through the terminal, you want to be able to use a program that you can run through the terminal itself. So VI is a really good example of that, and VI is really popular. It's on every single Linux distribution I can think of. It's on every installation of BSD and Unix I can think of by default. So it's really good to know at least a few basics of VI, because that way wherever you're working in the future, if you're working on a project, it should have VI installed and you can use that. Another really good editor that's also a modal editor is Emacs. I'm not going to be going over it too much today. If you're interested in it, you can ask any of the tutors and we'll tell you about it. You can also just check out Emacs on any of the computers here, and when you open it up, there's a link to the tutorial, and you can go through that tutorial, and it's a really nice tutorial. But today we're going to be going over Vim, which is the improved version of the classic editor VI, and it adds on some extra functionality, and Vim is installed on all of these machines. So as I was saying, Vim is a modal editor, so it has different modes. Most of the modes are pretty self-explanatory, and you can just see what they mean. So there's insert mode, it's where you insert text. There's command mode, which is where you command Vim to do something. So if you're editing something in, let's say, Notepad or WordPad, and you want to save the file, you aren't necessarily editing the text when you do that. You're just writing the file to the disk. So that's done in a different mode. If you want to move through the file by scrolling up and down, you're not necessarily editing the text when you're doing that. You're just commanding the file to go up and down. So there's a mode where you can do that. And then there's replace mode, which is a lot like insert mode, but instead of inserting text, you're replacing the text that's already there. Another thing you might do a lot when you're editing in Notepad or WordPad is select text to copy and move around and do different tasks with. But if you're on a command line, the mouse doesn't always work in a lot of cases, in most cases. So Vim has what's called a visual mode. And visual mode allows you to select text that's highlighted so you can do different tasks with that. Vim was written with the idea of speed in mind for touch typists. So it's set up in the QWERTY layout so your hands don't have to move very much at all. For a lot of us, it seems like it's too much work to move your hand off of the home row and grab the mouse and do some work. When it's so much faster when you can sit in a mode like command mode and just tell it what you would want to do, then jump into insert mode and start editing it, instead of moving your hand all the way over to the mouse to change that. So what a lot of people do once they get really good with Vim is they're actually quite a bit faster with Vim than their counterpart using Notepad and just using a mouse. So while it might be a little bit of a learning curve today as we're going over all of these commands, just keep in mind that the more you use Vim and the more practice you get, the faster you'll be, and in the long run, it'll probably be a really good editor for you to use, because it could increase your productivity. But as I was saying, it's only one option amongst many. It's just everywhere, so it's good to know at least the basics. So with that, we have a file open in Vim, so we can actually start editing it. And one of the first things that you're going to want to do in pretty much any file is move around. So if we wanted to move the cursor around, we have commands that can do that. When we opened up Vim, it opened it up into one of the modes that I just listed off, command mode. So now we're in the mode where we can command it to do things. You'll notice that if you just start hitting keys, it'll do random things. So you might not want to do that. If you're doing that now, press escape, 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 and it'll bring you back to the command mode. In command mode, we can tell it to move up and down, as I was saying. So to move down in Vim, you use the J key. That way you never have to move your finger off of the home row. So you can see my cursor is on the top right up there. If I press J, it goes down. And now if I wanted to go back up, I press K, and now I'm back at the top. Now sometimes I don't want to just press J a whole bunch of times to go down and to go back up with K. Sometimes I want to jump down a few. So if I type the number 3 and then J, I'll jump down 3 lines. And sometimes that will speed you up a lot, and you can do that in reverse with the K. And you'll notice that a lot of keys in Vim you can actually do combinations like that with. So if you wanted to jump down 10 lines, you could type 10J. If you wanted to jump up 6 lines, you could type 6K and you'll go up. But just going up and down isn't enough. We also have to go left and right. So we still don't want to move our hand off of the home row. So if we press H, we can go left. And if we press L, we can go right. So now we can do that, all of those things. Oh, and with the H and L, you can also use a number before that. So you can type, see, let's type 5H. I went over 5 spaces, and it works the same with the L. So now that we have some movement, why don't we move down past my outline, and there's an area where we can actually start filling in all these commands, and we can use it as a cheat sheet. So I'm going to press J, but that's taking too long, so I'll just type in, see, 25J, and I'm down a little bit farther, still not enough. Type in a bigger number. There we go. So now I'm in these, and then we're here. So we already went over to move the cursor down. If we want to append text to a line, you'll notice I'm at the end of the line. I'm on the colon right now. We can append that with A. So if we type A, in the bottom left, you'll notice it says insert now. So we changed modes to insert, and now it'll work like most text editors you've used. You can just type in what you want to type in. So J. And then to leave insert mode and go back to command mode, we just press escape. So now we're back to where we were, and we entered a J on there. So we can go down a line, and we want to fill in for up. And we'll continue to do that for the left and the right. Okay, why don't you all do that right now? And if you have any error, if you have any problems with that, I'll help you fill it in.
Yeah, it's not right.
Okay.
Not usually able to get over one more.
Okay, so press escape to make sure that. A good rule of thumb is if you're ever not sure what mode you're in, just press escape 3 times and you'll get out. So now let's go ahead and append text. So press A to append. Okay, now you're in insert mode,
all right.
and now you can type in to leave insert mode. It's escape.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else need any help?
Is there any way to go back to command mode without pressing escape?
Yes.
There's another way to do that. If you press Control and the left square bracket at the same time, that way you can stay pretty much on the home row.
Right.
So Control and the left square bracket will do the exact same thing as escape. What a lot of people do, because of the internet and people yelling a lot on the internet, and commands not liking caps lock. And imagine typing on Vim with caps lock on, it's a nightmare. So what a lot of people do, including myself, will actually remap caps lock to escape. So then you can just press the caps lock key instead of escape. And if you ever want to know how to do that after the workshop sometime, I can show you how to do that. If you're not a fan of caps lock like me. All right. So sometimes we don't want to just move a character at a time, or some multiple of a character at a time. Sometimes we want to jump by word. So if we go down a line into this one, if we're in the middle of a word, we can move to the end of the word by typing E. So you'll notice I was on the end and I pressed E, it moved over one. If we're in the middle of cursor and I type E, it jumps me straight to the end. So we can move over and we can type E in there. And as we can go to the end of the word, sometimes we want to go to the beginning of a word. And with that, let me go to the middle of beginning. We can press W, and it'll go to the beginning of the next word. If you want to go back a word, then that's B. So B to go back a word, and W to go forward a word. And you'll notice on Word here, if I'm in the middle of it and I press E to go to the end, it won't go on to the colon. So the word isn't separated by white space. It's actually separated by punctuation as well. To get to the end of the punctuation, I believe it's big E. Yep. So big E will actually get you to the next character before white space. So to get to the beginning of a word, we had W and B depending on what direction you want it to go. But even moving words is too slow sometimes. Sometimes we want to move to the beginning of the line. And to move to the beginning of the line, you can use caret, which is Shift 6. So it's that symbol. And that'll jump you to the beginning. And then sometimes we want to jump to the end of a line. And for that, we can use the $sign. That jumps you to the end, which is really handy for filling in this chart. Should probably move that one up higher. And sometimes we know exactly the line number you want to go to. Maybe you tried to compile some code and it gave you an error and it said there was an error on line number 55. So you can actually just type in :55, press enter, and it jumps straight to that one. And in this case, it was the next line, but that could be any line in the file. If it's line 1042, you could type in :1042 and it'll take you straight there. So let's add colon followed by number. Take you there. All right. Does that make sense to everyone? Everyone was able to get all that?
Do the line number again.
So you type colon, and you'll notice when I type colon, in the bottom left-hand corner, a colon shows up. And when that happens, I can type in the line number I want to go to. So let's go to line 70. If I type in 70, it'll actually jump me down to line 70. Now I want to go to line 57, so I'll type in :57, press enter, and it takes me there. All right. So we've gone over one way to enter text. In fact, it's the second one on here, so let's go ahead and enter that one first. So A will enter text after the cursor. But sometimes I want to enter text before the cursor. To do that, we insert, which is I. So if on the line I'm on right now, if I were to press I right here, I could press I and then type stuff, and it will come in before the A. So that one is I. But again, even though I know how to go to the start of the line and then insert text, I could do that by doing the caret, then by typing I. That's too much work. I might as well just do it with one keystroke. So Shift I, so big I, will insert text at the beginning of the line. So I was at the end of the line and I typed Shift I, and it moved me back to the beginning, and it went into insert mode. So now I could type here, and it'll go at the beginning. So that's big I.
What did you say the command was instead of escape again?
It's Control left square bracket. So it looks like, it's not that. It's that. To append text at the end of the line, it's the same as the I and big I, but in this case we're appending, so it's not little a, it's big A. So on this line, let me go back into command mode. I'll move to the middle of the line, and now if I do big A, it's all the way at the end, and I'm in insert mode. And sometimes I'm even too lazy to press return to open a new line, and you can do that with one keystroke. So if I wanted to create a new line after this, I could just type the lowercase letter O, and that'll open a new line and put me into insert mode, and I can start typing. If I go back to command mode, sometimes I want to open a new line, but I want it to be above the current line I'm on. And to do that, it's big O. So if I type capital O, it'll open a new line in insert mode above that one. Okay, does everyone follow so far? Don't want to leave anyone behind? All doing good? Okay, great. So now that we have a few ways to go into command mode, there's a few other ones which I use sometimes, but they don't come in quite as handy as the other ones. I end up using the ones that we just went over all the time, but sometimes these ones are really handy as well. To change the rest of the line that you're on, it's capital C, and you can change the entire line that you're on. If anyone did what I just did and typed capital C in the middle of the line, if you escape and then press U, it'll undo your last change. And one thing to think about is when you're coding, when you're writing code, you work with lines instead of like you would if you're writing a text document in sentences. So when you're dealing with lines, to jump to the end of the line, sometimes that's really helpful because then you can jump to where the semicolon is and insert stuff right before that, add more to your line. You can move lines around a lot quicker than you could if you just had a big text document. Okay. So that's how to change the rest of the line. Sometimes you just want to change one character. So if I wanted to change this A to some other character, let's say a B, I could just type little r and then B. You'll notice that it changed that character. And notice that when I did that, it didn't put me into insert mode. So I can just change one character at a time. Let me change it back so it's R, and then I'll type A. I can change that one character without ever changing modes. So if you just made one little typo in a line, you can get to it really fast and just change the one character. So that one was little r. But sometimes you want to go through and just replace all of the stuff that you have. You don't really care what's there. So let's go to the beginning of this word. If I type big R, it'll put me into a new mode. We'll see at the bottom it's replace. And now if I type over this, it'll actually replace what was already there. But I don't want to do that, so I'll just type U to undo that again. So big R will replace all the characters from that cursor, from where the cursor is on, and it'll just type right over the rest of them. You might have noticed too while I was typing in, I didn't type over all of the characters. The characters that were still to the right of the cursor never got erased. And we've already gone over 2 ways to get out of insert mode. So can you type in escape, or you can use control and that symbol. And escape will get you out of replace mode and out of visual mode. If you're ever not sure what mode you're in, just tap escape 3 times. It'll bring you back to command mode, and hopefully everything will be safe. There's only one case where that's not true. If you type capital Q, you'll go into X mode, and it says right there how to get back. So just type visual to go back into normal mode. In all other cases I can think of, though, hitting escape 3 times will always get you back to command mode, and everything should be safe again. It's really handy if you ever accidentally hit caps lock, because then these keys, you'll notice they start doing random things that you don't think they're doing, and get really confusing. So press escape 3 times, and then hopefully you can figure out what the problem is from now on. So are there any questions yet before we move on to the next part? All right. So another common task in editors is to cut and copy and paste characters and lines. So if we wanted to cut a character, we can use the X key. So if I wanted to cut the, here I'll type X at the end. And then when I'm over the X, I can tap X. You'll notice that it goes away. It just cut it to a buffer. And you can paste it back by typing P. And it pastes it back. If I wanted to paste it again, I could type P again. But I only want one of them, so delete one out of there. But I don't want to go through and cut each character at a time and paste them in one character at a time. It takes way too long. So we can cut an entire line by typing DD. If I type DD on this line, it cuts that line. If I want to paste it in the line above this, it's big P, and it'll put it back. So you can use any of these commands that we've gone over, with the exception of entering into insert mode. You can add a number to the beginning. So with X, you can delete X number of characters by doing 3X or NX characters. With lines, it's the same way. If you want to cut 3 lines, we could type 3DD. Cuts 3 of them, and we can paste them back in with a big P. Yes. So yeah, all of those commands are in command mode.
Wait, you go into command mode and say 3DD?
Yep. And it should cut the current line you're on plus the next 2.
It doesn't do it if you're in oh, right.
Right. Any other questions? Okay. Another thing you might want to do is copy characters. Both Emacs and Vim don't actually call it copy. They call it yank. Does the exact same thing pretty much. But the reason why to remember that it's yank is that the key is Y, so it's really helpful. So to yank characters and yank line is YY. And I never copy characters, so I'm going to have to think about that one for a second. Let's see. Oh.
Is it 1Y?
No, it's not.
Are you trying to copy one character?
Yeah.
Just lowercase b.
Lowercase.
Highlight only one character.
Okay.
And delete the line.
So we'll go back to that because there is a way to do that. But we'll explain how to do that after we go over visual mode, and it'll make more sense. So for now, let's go down to paste. We've already done it a couple times. So to paste after where the cursor is, it's lowercase p. To paste before it, it's big P. And if you're pasting a line, it'll create a new line to paste that onto, either below or above the cursor. If it's not a whole line, if it's just part of a line, then it will paste it before or after where the cursor is on the current line. So we're just talking about visual mode. And visual mode is kind of like when you're using Notepad or an Office program to select text with your mouse. You can do that with just the keyboard in Vim. To do that, you type V, and you'll see at the bottom the mode change to visual. And now that we're in visual mode, you can actually use your movement keys, so J, K, H, and L, and you can highlight characters. So if we wanted to copy one character, you can just have it on the current character you're on and highlight it. And then you can type Y to copy it. And then if you type P, it'll paste back just that one character. But if you want to copy more than one character, if we just wanted to copy the word line, then we could type B to go back to the beginning of this line, or to the beginning of the word. And then we could type V. And then to go to the end of the word, it was E. So then we got that all highlighted. And now we can copy that with a Y. So now we copied the word line, and then we can type P to paste that in. But that looks silly, so I'll type U to undo that. Did that make sense to everyone? That was kind of a bigger combination of things. So to enter visual mode, we can use lowercase v. You can also use big V. To use big V, it's visual line mode. And in this, it's the same as the lowercase v in a visual mode, but now it just does a line at a time. Which if you're working with code, it's sometimes faster. You can also use your movement commands we went over. So you saw I was using B and W to move words back and forth with to move the cursor back and forth over words in visual mode. You can also use the J and K keys with a number. So if I wanted to copy the next few lines down, I could type in like 5J, then I have 5 lines highlighted. And that works the same way. If you decide that you don't want to do anything in visual mode to get out of it, it's still just escape. Okay. Does that make sense to everyone? You can sometimes. And if you go on to some servers and they're only running VI, that won't work. So don't be totally dependent on it. And sometimes it's just a lot faster because if you are using the mouse, you still have to move your hand off of the keyboard over to the mouse, highlight what you want, move it back, type in your command. So if we can type it in on the keyboard, it's usually faster. Okay, so now we're going to actually finally save our cheat sheet that we've been making. So let's write the file to the disk. And to do that, it's :W. So if I type that in now, you'll notice that with the colon, like I said before, the colon shows up in the bottom left. Then you can type in W for write, and then press enter, and it'll save your file. If you type in :W space some new name, then it'll save your file as that. So does everyone have their file saved? So now you can have a cheat sheet for Vim later.
Does it get rid of the old one if you put in a new name, or is it like?
No, it'll just write a new copy of it. It's a new spot. Yeah, it works pretty much the same as save as. All right. So sometimes you want to open up another file. We already have one file open, but let's open up a new one. So if we type in :E down in the bottom, but don't type anything after that, then space. So don't press enter after you type :E. So just :E space. Now we're going to name a new file. We'll just call it 1.txt. Does everyone have that? Okay, once you have that, press enter. You'll notice the other file went away, but now you have a new file. So everyone type in a short message to themselves. So. And then save that. Then do the :W at the end to make sure it's saved. And once you have your new file open, this isn't too helpful if we want to get back to our old one. So we can list off all of the different files we have opened with the command. We can type : and then type in buffers. Do that and press enter. It'll show you the current buffers that you still have open. And you can actually open these with the number on the side, or you can do it a different way, and we'll do it the other way. So press enter. And you can type :B and then space the name of the file that you want to go back to. So the other one was Vim. I don't remember the rest of it, so you're going to press tab, and it'll tab complete it for you. And once you have that, you can press enter, and it'll bring you back to the original file, the same spot you were in it.
Are those just files that are open, or are those files that exist in the current directory?
They're files that you currently have open. So they could be in all sorts of directories. They're just the ones that you currently have open in the buffers of Vim. But a lot of times when I'm working on things, I want to have 2 files open at once. I want to be able to see both of them at the same time. Especially if you're working on C code or C++ code. If you have 2 different windows open, you can have documentation open in one and your code in the other. Or maybe you have a header file and your normal C++ file in the other one. So it's really handy to have both open. So why don't we do that? If we can open up a new window by typing in either :split or :v-split. :split. Okay. :split will split the screen down the middle, so you'll have 2 stacked windows. I like v-split, which will put like one window on the left and one on the right, because most of the monitors are slightly more widescreen, so you have more screen real estate. So :v-split will look like that. But then we have the same file open in both, and that's a little silly. So if we type Control-W, you'll notice the cursor jumped over to the other window. So now we can edit that one.
What is it again to jump over?
Control-W, Control-W. And that works kind of like Alt-Tab for the Vim windows. It'll just cycle through all the different windows you have open. You can also use Control-W in a direction. So right now I'm in the right. I can type Control-W-H, and it'll jump to the left. Then I can type Control-W-L, and it'll go to the right. If you have them stacked then you could type Control WJ and Control WK. But now I have my cursor on the right, and I'm going to do the command we did before, and I'm going to change the buffer I have loaded over there. So I'm going to type :B, then the name of the file that I saved. I called mine 1.txt. I don't know what everyone else called theirs. And if I do that, I can have one file open in one window and one in the other. But then maybe you don't like the order they're in. Maybe you want the one on the left on the right. And to switch that, you can type Control WR, and then it'll switch them.
That would be split the windows.
Yes, yes. So I just covered a lot in a really short amount of time. So does everyone get all the stuff with the windows?
Jump back over the other again.
Control W, or Control W, and then a direction. So it depends on how you want to close it. So if you want to close one of these, do you want to completely close out the file? Or do you want to just put, or do you want to close the window and put that back into your list of buffers that you still have open? So if you want to close it and still have it open in your buffers, then you can type in :B and then unload as one word. When you do that, you'll go back to just the one. But if you type in :buffers, you'll notice that it's still open. So you can still edit it from just typing :B.
Like 5
Do you need any help with it, or?
I guess so. I don't know. Okay. So I :B, I have
And
the
then
same
unload
thing.
as one word?
B space unload?
Nope.
No, just
One word.
unload. All right. Yeah, it doesn't like it.
Huh.
I don't know what I did.
What was it? :B unload?
Yes. Oh, it's because you haven't saved the one that you're currently in. It won't let you close that one down unless that one's saved.
Okay.
So you can actually overwrite that by putting an exclamation mark before that. So put an exclamation, or put a colon,
Okay.
and then an exclamation mark, and then type it.
Okay. Ah. Oh,
Oh,
good.
then press enter.
Oh, wow.
Oh, something weird just happened.
If you're not worried, but you can always just save it too. So Shift: W.
Just that?
Mhm.
That's what it was. Okay.
And now you should be able to close that.
Okay.
Yeah, then we'll always warn you if you haven't saved it, it actually won't let you exit. Okay. Well, you have everything saved. So it's an exit out. So make sure.
When I first tried to open the new file, it
There you go.
did weird things anyway, so.
Sorry, how do you dump the other side again?
Okay. So it should be :B unload as one word.
Oh, one word, okay. That was probably my problem.
It's bunload. I surely shouldn't be amused by
There you go.
that.
There we go, thank you.
All right.
Totally is.
So to explore the files, again, to open a new one, it's, :E. And then to change buffers, that was :B. And sometimes we just want to quit out of a file completely. And there's a number of ways to do that depending on exactly how you want to quit. So the easiest way to do that, :Q, not big Q, sorry, the little q, will just quit you out. But you might have an error that says you haven't saved, you can't quit, and it won't let you quit. In order to quit, you either have to save it, or you have to tell it that you really don't want to save it and you really want to quit by doing an !Q. But sometimes you want to save and quit. So to do that, you can just combine two things with :WQ. Oh, you're right.
So with the Explorer file, could you type in a directory if the file is in a different directory? Like how I just did :E1.txt, we could do :E home/Nicole/blah blah dot.
Yeah, you definitely could. You can also use the ... operator that Bash has. So if you do ... it's the parent directory.
Right.
And then from that, then you could edit those. But yes, that works fine. So there's 3 different things we can do. But sometimes those take too long to type in, especially the write and quit and the just quit. So there's a shorthand way to do that. If I want to save the file and quit, you can do big Z, big Z. You don't have to press colon or anything. Just type big Z, and it'll save and exit. If you want to just quit, you can do that with big Z, big Q. And I use those all the time. It's a really nice shorthand. That one is just quit. It doesn't save it. All right. So let's continue down here. So we've done undo a couple times already. That's U, and you can do that one with numbers as well. You can type in 3U and undo the last 3 changes. And then sometimes you want to redo. This is another control one. So to do this one, it's control V. I believe. I might have that wrong. Let me check really quick. Nope. I'm sorry, it's control R. It's one I don't use too often. Yes. Control R makes a lot more sense. I don't know why I was thinking it was V. Okay. And then sometimes you'll want to search your document for something, and that's really easy to do in Vim. You can just type in / character. And when you type that in, you'll notice the slash shows up in the bottom left. Then you can search for something. So let's search for the word mark. I see it a couple times down there. And as I'm typing, mine highlights. I don't know if yours will. It depends on how you have your settings file set up. And then you can press enter, and it'll highlight them. And then you can press N, and it'll jump through all of them. And it says at the bottom that I hit the bottom, and now it's going from the top. And that's pretty handy. And then sometimes you can do other things. Let me find a good word. So if I go to the word to, I can actually type in the star, so Shift 8, and it'll highlight the current word I'm on. And then I can press next, and it'll jump through all the versions of that. So I don't have to type it in. I can just type in Shift star, and that works as well. And you'll notice that by default on mine, it's not case sensitive, and I'm pretty sure by default Vim is set that way. I don't think it's how I have my settings file set up. I believe that it's case insensitive by default.
Is there ever a information session on like bash RC files or anything?
I don't know if they went over that this morning in the intro to Linux, but we could definitely help you at the tutor's desk if you're interested in that, and we have lots of resources to learn about that as well. So that was / and star. We can use those to jump around. If we want to replace text, we went over one way how to replace on the line. You can also search and replace. I was talking to someone the other day, and there's a lot of different ways to do this, and it can get really confusing. So I'm going to leave that one off for now. If anyone's interested in how to do that, just talk to me afterwards, and we'll go through that. There's other things you can do that I find really handy, but these, I believe, are only shell commands you can do in VI. I think with the marks we're about to get to after that, though, you can only do those in Vim. I'm not sure, though. But you can definitely do that with Vim on all of these computers. One of the cool things that you can do, though, is shell commands. And I wanted to just show everyone this one really quick. If I go through and I go to visual line mode, which is the big V, and then I go through and highlight all these lines we've been going through, if I wanted them in alphabetical order, I could actually run a command. So I'm in visual line with everything selected. After that, I can type colon. You'll see at the bottom, it put some symbols down there saying that I'm going to run a command on the area I have selected. Then I can do exclamation mark. And then I can type in sort. And it'll actually sort everything for me. So it moves all the white space to the top, but everything else after that's in alphabetical order. That makes it kind of hard to figure out what I have to put in next. I'm going to undo that. Yeah, if you're interested in how it's sorting, you can open up the manual page for sort. What I'm actually doing is I'm running the command that's part of Linux on there, so that it has the program sort, and I'm running that with the input from what I have highlighted, and then Vim is pasting that back into the area that I had. So you can sort with colon, or from wherever you're doing that, then a exclamation mark. So if I just wanted to open up like a bash shell, I could type in colon, exclamation mark, and then bash. Then it'll actually let me go back to here when I'm done. it'll bring me right back. So
the terminal is also known as batch shell.
yeah, sort of. The terminal is the interface that you're accessing the computer through, and then there's different shells that you can use from inside of that, and bash is one of the shells. It's the born again shell, and it's a set of various well, the core utilities are kind of part of Linux itself. It kind of has its own syntax, I guess, for getting work done, as well as a few tools that are built into it. Some of the commands, like sort, actually isn't part of bash, it's part of Linux itself, so you can actually get to that from any of the shells. Okay, so we went through those. So to place marks, you can actually place a bookmark in your text. So if I wanted to place a mark on line 70, we can do that with M, and then you need to tie it to a letter. So I've never used more than 26, so I always use A through Z. I believe that you can go past that, but I've never found a reason to make more than 26 marks in a file. So if I type MA, it'll make a mark on line 70, and then I can move through the file to anywhere. I'll move down here, and then I can type a single quote, and then I can type A again, and it'll jump me right back to there. So if I would go down a few lines, now I could type M and then B. Now I have a mark on that line. Now I can jump to where I had my mark on A, so single quote A, and I'm up there. Then I can type single quote B, and I'm back to my second mark. And I've never thought of a good use case, like I was saying, to do more than 26, so I'd have to look it up on how to do more than that. But if you want to afterwards, I can help you figure out how to do that. The only thing I have left is omni-completion. If I wanted to open up a new line and start typing something, so I type the first few letters of my name, you can actually type Control-N, and it'll search through the file and find a word that's like it and finish it. It'll find a word and finish it by typing in Control-N. If I have more than one word that matches, it'll actually open up a menu, and you can select from that menu for whatever you're searching for. And in the newer versions of Vim, if you're editing a code file, like a C++ file, it'll actually go through the header files you list as well as all the files in your current directory. So if there's a function, you type in the first few characters for it, you can't remember the rest of it, you can type Control-N and it'll finish it for you. So delete that out of there. So it's Control-N to do that. Oh, and I have spell check down here. So I'm only going to go through Control-N. I'm only going to go through spell check, but there's a whole bunch of different options you can set in Vim. So let me type in a word that doesn't make any sense. So there we go. And now in Vim, there's a ton of different settings you can set. So to set those, you can type set, and for spelling, it's spell. You'll notice that everything that's misspelled is highlighted. That looks really ugly, so I'm going to turn it off. And to turn it off, you can type set no spell. And to turn off something that you've set, it's usually the word no with the word following it. But turning on all these settings, like one is there, if you type in :set number, numbers, it's one of the two, we'll put the line numbers on the side of your page. You'll notice I don't even remember which one it is, but you can actually save that in a config file, so you only have to set it once, and every time you load up Vim, it'll set your configuration for you. And that's saved in your home folder in a file called .vimrc. So .vimrc, and you can set all of that. Probably don't want spell check on all the time, but you can research it later and figure out stuff to do, all the different types of highlights that you like, get the right color scheme that you like, get the numbers on the side. You can set everything up in that. You can set aliases so that way the characters do special things. You can type in different control sequences. You can do all sorts of really nifty things with it.
Like
Yeah. So that's about all that I have. I'll come around and answer any questions, but I thought I would leave you with a few things. You can look more into this later. I left some references on there. So the man page is really good to go through. If you're ever bored, you can open up the terminal and read that. There's a open source ebook that you can get from the web address that I am listed there. It's really good. It goes through the vimrc file and how to set all of that up. And after you feel pretty confident in Vim and you're using it, you've been using it for a few months, I'll probably wait at least that long to go to this. But after that, the current maintainer of Vim has a Google Tech Talk and on how to be extremely efficient with Vim. And he has, like, I think it's 7 tricks for it that are really nice. I went over one of them, which is the completion. And there's just a few like hidden tricks you can find, and that's located at that YouTube address. So one of the things that people who use Vim like to do. They like to figure out what the shortest number of keystrokes it takes to do something. So I put a little project on here for everyone to do, to copy this C++ file into a new file and save it under the name listed. And I want to see how many characters it takes everyone to do that. And if you think that that's fun, for whatever reason, there's actually a website dedicated to this called vimgolf.com. You can actually go there and they have tons of different projects where people compete to see who can get the shortest number of characters to get something done. So that concludes what I had to say. If anyone has any questions, I'll be around. And if you're interested in Emacs, I'd love to talk to you about that too. So if anyone is a big Emacs fan, I don't want to start a war. I'm a big fan of Emacs as well as Vim, so they're both awesome. So yeah, thanks for coming.